Hey YouTube, it's Justin, aka Demonic Sweaters. Today we're going to be doing another Roland TD-27 module tutorial. Today what I'm going to be doing is actually taking the very first preset drum sound in here, the premium wood patch in the TD-27, and tweaking it to make it sound better. At least better to me. Now, this is highly subjective, how drums should sound. Everybody has different opinions, but I do think that most people can agree that most of the preset sounds on basically any drum module aren't going to sound as good as the ones you tweak yourself and personalize and customize. Now, you may not know that in addition to all the user, like empty user slots that are in the TD-27, you can actually change any of the presets that are in there, and it will save any of the changes you make into that patch itself. So you don't have to use the user presets. Like for example, if you find one that you think sounds pretty good, but wish it had a little bit more of this or that, it's easy just to tweak that and make it to your liking. So that's what I'm going to be doing. And actually, I think I'm going to make this a series. I'm going to basically just be going through these, all the ones that I think already sound pretty good, but just could use a little bit of polishing, like the premium wood patch, and just make it sound a little bit better. Now, if you like these kind of videos, don't forget to subscribe and click that bell icon so you get notified every time I upload new content. Also, you can check out my music on Apple Music and Spotify. That really encourages me to keep going and producing this kind of content for you guys to check out. So anyway, check out the links down below. Now let's go ahead and get started with this video. All right, first off, let's hear how the kit sounds right out of the box. Now really, I think this kit already sounds pretty darn good. However, a couple things about it I'm not super crazy about, one being the snare drum. So let's go ahead and start off with fixing that. So let's just hit our snare. Then we're going to go into Kit Edit. And there's many ways to do similar things in the TD-27, but I'm basically just going to do it however I think is easiest. So I'm going to go into Instrument Edit. And now we have instrument number right here. And I think I like the snare number, but let's change the tuning a little bit. Let's bring that up a bit. And get rid of some of the muffling. And also, actually, never mind. So that already sounds a little bit better. However, there's something about the EQ that I'm not totally crazy about. So let's go exit out of here. And now I'm going to go over to Pad EQ right here. Press Enter here. And let's check out our mid-range here. Our mid-range frequency. Well, first off, I'm going to raise it up. Just so, actually, I'm going to widen the Q a little bit, not that much. Actually, no, I'm going to leave that where it is. But I'm going to raise up the gain so it's more extreme, just so I can hear that frequency a little bit better. Now let's move this around. Okay, so I'm just going to change the mid-range to a little bit of a higher frequency, 250. I think it was 200 before. So about right there, and I'm going to narrow that Q just a little bit more. Oh, one thing I actually didn't even realize, but you might notice that there's actually two different settings for rim and head. So I want to match those. So let's go ahead and turn that low boost off of the rim so it matches the head. Okay. Now I want to add a little bit of high. I'm going to change the frequency of the high just a tad too. that sounds a little bit better to me. It's still just a tad bit sharp sounding, so let's bring down that high boost a little bit. All right, that sounds pretty good. Now, I already really like the kick sound on this one, so I'm going to leave that pretty much alone. The toms I enjoy as well. However, I think they could be a little bit louder. So let's go back over here, and we'll go to pad volume. I'm going to turn off my head rim. Now this button right here, H and R, if you didn't know, that locks the head and rim adjustments together. So I'm going to turn that off because my toms are actually only single zone. So I'm just going to be adjusting the head zone. Let's bring that up a little bit. That up a little bit. Floor tom sounds okay to me. So the next thing I want to work on here is actually my cymbals, because I have a couple auxiliary cymbals here. I have a tube trigger right here, and then a Pintech splash over here. And these are both single zone. So if you'll notice, if we go back over here to Instrument Select, and I hit that, you'll notice that I have a 70s vintage China there, but it's actually not the edge sound. So let's go ahead and change that. And actually, I don't think I even want a China there anyways. So I'm going to make sure that head rim is off before I adjust this, because if I have it on, let me just show you, and I start adjusting this, it's not ever going to give me an edge zone. It's always just going to give me tips. And so that could be kind of weird if you have a single zone cymbal. So we want to make sure we can get edge sounds there. So let's go ahead and turn that H and R off. And now you can hear all the different edge zones. Now for me, I generally tend to like something pretty short on this tube trigger right here. And I'm thinking actually a cowbell might be kind of cool on this particular patch. So let me see if I can find a cowbell here. Of course, I'm not looking at my instrument list, so I don't know exactly where it is, so I'm just going to have to look for it. Probably somewhere in the percussion, somewhere in here. There we go. Why am I getting two? I must have sub-instrument on. Yes, I do. So I want to turn that off. There we go. So sub-instrument, that's a good thing I found that, because that actually shows you, or what that does is it actually allows you to layer two different sounds together. So I'm going to make sure that is off. We'll work on that a little bit more here in a little bit. On a different drum, but let's go ahead and go back. So we have cowbell tip. That's too high. I want something lower. So that sounds pretty good. So I dig that. That cowbell sounds nice. And this one over here, even though that is not an edge sound, but let's go ahead and hear what the edge sounds like. So I actually kind of like the tip sound on that little splash there. So I'm going to leave that one alone, because I'd like to do stuff kind of like this with that little like trashy, tight splash sound. I like to do stuff like. So that works nice for that. Okay, so let's listen to the rest of the cymbals. I already like that crash just fine. My ride, I feel like the bell could be louder. So we're going to go back over here to, let's exit out of this. Go back to pad volume. Make sure H and R is off. Let's hit the bell zone. Bring it up a little bit. All right, sounds nice. That's weird. I'm getting a... Anyway. That has to do with my crash cymbal over there, but that's all right. I'll deal with that later. So, I still want to work on my snare just a little bit because I'm still not totally in love with the snare sound. So, let's go back to instrument. And let's check out the sub instrument. Let's turn that on. Now let's go to edit, or sorry, let's go to sub instrument here, and let's select a sub. So let's find a snare. These are all kicks. Let's get to the snares. Oh, I want to make sure H and R is on here because this way I'm selecting the same snare for both sub and for both sub sounds, for both rim and head. A brass that's very short in sustain, but we already have sustain here. There we go. Just to give it a little more pop to it. Honestly, I'm not loving that either, so I might start over with the snare drum. I think I'm going to. So let's turn off the sub, and then let's go back. Oops. Back to our instrument selection. I'm just going to select a different snare altogether. Okay, let's go back. Okay, so let's work with this and see what we can do. So let's go over here to edit. Shell depth I'm going to leave at 6.5. Let's change our head. Check out our snare setting. Okay, not in love with this one either. Let's find a different one. Okay, I kind of like this steel open snare sound. So let's go ahead and work with this one. Back to the pad EQ. I'm going to turn off the high boost and bring down that mid boost a little bit. Here with no EQ. Alright, I do like the EQ on there, so I'm going to have to just make a decision here. I'm kind of going crazy with this, but let's go ahead and leave that how it is. Now I want to go over to Pad Compressor. And compressor is on, and I think that's what I'm hearing that I'm not liking. Okay, that's getting there. Now let's go over here to transient. And transient is also on, so I'm going to turn that off. All right, now we're getting there. So let's go over here to overheads. Overheads is on, but I do like the overhead sound, so I'm going to leave those on. And let's listen to what kind of overheads we have here. So we have, right now, overhead is level is set to -1. Let's turn it up to 0, just so it's a little more noticeable. And I'm going to change the overhead type. And it's just going to give me a warning there, since this is a non-user preset that I'm about to change the overhead, so it's just giving me a warning. Now, I kind of like the dry sound, but it makes it a little bit too trebly in my opinion. So let's try this warm one. Little bit too mid-rangey on that one. Clear might be the one. Okay, that's actually sounding pretty good. So I'm going to exit out of the overheads. Now let's go down to our room settings here. And I'm going to switch this to one of the small studios. bring it up just a little bit. Turn it back down just a hair. All right, that's sounding pretty good to me, so let's exit out of here. Now, we have multi-effects here, which I'm not going to use for this particular drum sound because I'm working on kind of a normal sound here, but I am going to check out the master compressor. So let's go ahead and turn that on. And then let's go ahead and enter that so we can adjust the settings of it. So let's change the threshold a little bit. Ratio we need to adjust as well or it won't do anything. So let's put this to 2:1. That's a bit too much threshold. So let's raise that back up a little bit. A little bit more. It's still too much. I just want a little touch of it. There we go. And that sounds pretty good. It's a little bit more processed sounding than the original one, but that's okay with me. I mean, what's the point of electronic drums if you're not going to play with them and make them a little bit electronic sounding? So let's just hear that a little bit more. Now, you guys are probably going to kill me, but I still want to change that snare drum. Not loving it. Not loving it. I actually kind of like the original one a little bit better. But let's go back here to... Well, you know, another way we can edit the instrument is just by touching the instrument knob here. And then that'll automatically go to the instrument changing selection. So let's try the hardwood open. All right, that sounds pretty cool. So let's go ahead and exit out of here. And now I think I'm pretty happy with my new version of the premium wood. So let's check that out again. Now you may start to notice as you play a little bit, some level adjustments that need to be made. Like I'm noticing this tom is still a little bit quiet compared to the other two. So let's bring that one up a little bit. Let's just hit the level knob here. And bring that up. And also, I think I might have made my bell a little bit too high. So let's bring that back down just a little bit. Turn HR off. Just a little bit more. It's still pretty high. And actually, I feel like my snare should be higher. Okay, now the compression may be a little bit much, you know, for some people, but you know, you can easily turn that on and off. I might actually turn it off a little bit because the reason why I said that is because I'm actually starting to think it's a little bit much even for me. You know, I don't actually use a lot of compression on drums, but sometimes it can sound pretty good. So let's just back that off a little bit more. Okay, so I think finally I am done now. But you can see that, the more you mess with this, the more you'll hear things that you want to tweak. So, make adjustments, play a little bit, and then you'll start to hear, certain things you want to change a little bit. And also when you record and make some music using some of these kits too, you may find more changes that you want to make. So it's an ongoing process, but I am much happier with how it sounds now than it did when I originally started out. So this is now the new premium wood sound for my kit. All right, I think that's going to be all for this one, guys. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it and you learned something. Hopefully that was clear. I know I'm kind of jumping around all over the place, but at least maybe it'll give you some ideas of how you can experiment with your TD-27. And I'm going to be doing more of these too. So anyway, thanks for watching, everybody, and I'll see you guys really soon. Later.